Hey summoners, and welcome back to another Pro Guides OP Korean builds video. My name is Kellen, and today I will be covering all of the latest and most OP builds that have been rising in popularity in Korean solo queue. A bunch of you guys have been asking for our personal recommendation on this topic, as well as a video about the preseason changes, and we are finally here to deliver it. There have been a bunch of new OP Korean builds or even wacky builds this patch, and some have really shaken up the Korean meta. Some of the builds you'll see here today might even surprise you a bit, so make sure you stay around till the end. Also guys, today's question of the day is, what is a wacky build that you've been using during the preseason? Me personally, I've been trying Omnistone on a bunch of different top laners, and it's been a blast. Let us know your answers in the comments down below. And one last thing before we get started, make sure you check out ProGuides.com using the link in the description down below. The preseason is the perfect time to climb, so increase your MMR for next season and make climbing easier for yourself by using Pro Guides. Also, since all the really try-hard players aren't playing anymore, it'll be even easier to climb. So what are you waiting for? Click the link, pick up a challenger level coach, and rank up in preparation for the next season. Now with that stuff being said, let's jump right into the Korean builds. Starting with the top lane, the first OP Korean build that we will be covering in today's video is for Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is beyond busted in the top lane right now, mainly due to the return of tanks and the new Conqueror rune. He is probably the best top laner who can abuse Conqueror, and his win rate has skyrocketed this patch. In fact, he's almost untouchable right now due to how much value this new rune really brings for him. For runes, you'll want to take Conquer, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Domination Secondary for Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. For items, you'll go Luden, Sork Shoes, Rylai's, Liandry's, Deathcap, and Zanya's. This playstyle is so annoying, and I highly recommend you try it because you literally cannot lose lane with this build. Next up for the top lane, we have a more generic build, which involves using a build that is pretty new because of the new busted item called Sanguine Blade. For those who are unaware, Sanguine Blade provides 50 AD, 15% lifesteal, 10 lethality, and also has a passive which grants 8 lethality and 20 to 100% attack speed if there are one or less nearby enemies. And yes, this is a passive, not an active. And due to the nature of this build favoring isolated scenarios, a lot of top laners have been abusing it. It pretty much is 1.5 items combined into one, and champions who can't build this item against their opponents will automatically be put behind. This item works with any AD top laner in the game, but Koreans have been most notably using it on lane bullies like Jace, Quinn, and Lucian. These guys can use it the most effectively, and they can purchase this item to continue to bully their counterparts during the mid game. However, there are some melee champions who've been building it as well, like Aurelia, Jax, Fiora, Kled, Shen, and the list goes on. So give it a try, get that free low while you can, because this item has already been hotfixed from 40% down to 20% attack speed, and will probably continue to be nerfed significantly within the coming weeks. Alright, and the third build that we have for top lane is going to be for tanks. Tank top laners have returned into the meta, and they are stronger than ever. Thanks to the removal of the true damage component on Conqueror and Kleptomancy being removed from the game entirely, tank top laners have now made a triumphant return and are going to dominate the top lane meta. Champions like Ornn, Singed, and Shen have become a lot stronger and are all now great pickups for this season. Singed and Shen are abusing the new Aftershock cooldown to become unstoppable in those 1v1 trades. They're pretty much unstoppable during the laning phase since nobody can deal damage to them. Ornn, on the other hand, has always been a very powerful pick, but was kept in check due to Conqueror and Klepto. However, since those two things have now been reworked, he's now the second best top laner in the game in terms of statistics, and Koreans are putting much higher priority on him during champion select. And lastly, for the top lane, we have a build that is somewhat unpredictable and hasn't really proven itself yet, but the stats for this build haven't really come through, although players are still spamming it, and pro players have been using it in higher elo solo queue. Omnistone, Jace, and Pantheon have been seeing a lot of play, and it works surprisingly well with these two champions. It's really hard to find a champion who can work with every keystone, but these two are by far the best on the given roster. The only two keystones that kinda suck are using Glacial Augment and Guardian, but the chances of getting those two exact keystones are pretty low. Now again, we have to mention that this build is kind of troll, and there's a reason why pro players are spamming it, but it's just a little bit unproven. The versatility of the page, however, might just have some potential in it, but we will wait and find out later. And here is a quick recap of all of the builds that we mentioned for top lane. Okay, now onto the jungle. The first jungle build that we have is for Olaf. Thanks to the new jungle changes, Olaf has now become an S tier jungler once again, and he's insanely powerful. The Conqueror rework has really helped him out, and he's one of the few junglers in the game who can clear fast enough to keep up with the new jungle timers. For runes, you'll take Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand, followed by Inspiration for perfect timing and Cosmic Insight. For items, you want to go Red Smite Warrior Enchantment into Tabbies, Cleaver, Starax, GA, and a Spirit Visage. However, here comes the twist. If for some reason you manage to get insanely ahead during the early game, then go ahead and purchase a Sanguine Blade. Not only does this item make your clear speed insanely fast, but it also allows you to solo the Baron. Although it may be a little bit slow, you will have enough healing and attack speed to never die so long as you use your ultimate when the Baron is about to knock you up. Next up for jungle, we have a build for Nocturne. Pretty much everybody thought that Nocturne would be a lot weaker with the new changes to Presence of Mind. However, he ended up getting stronger, and this is mainly due to the addition of the new lethality items as well as the buffs to lethality items, and the main one, of course, being, you guessed it, Sanguine Blade. Once you purchase that item, you can hunt down any isolated target by ulting on top of them and then watch them helplessly die. For runes, you'll want Lethal Tempo, Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Domination Secondary for Ultimate Hunter and Sudden Impact. For the items, you'll want Red Smite, Blood Razor into Merc Treads, Duskblade, Sanguine Blade, GA, and an Umbral Glaive. Lastly, for the jungle, we have a build for Shyvana. AP Shyvana has become much stronger this patch due to the importance of early dragons and the buffs made for hard farming junglers. You now technically get an extra 12% gold and experience bonus when you hard farm the camps rather than gank, and the timers for the respawns have been reduced from 2.5 minutes to 2 minutes flat. This ends up meaning that Shyvana can hard farm to her level 6 power spike even faster, while also forcing your bottom lane to play around dragons. For runes, you'll want to take Dark Harvest, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Ravenous Hunter, followed by Sorcery Secondary for Transcendence and Gathering Storm. For items, you'll want Blue Smite, Runic Echoes into Sork Shoes, Nashers, Morellonomicon, Deathcap, and Azanias. The build remains mostly the same, but the strength that this playstyle has is now stronger due to the new season changes. And here's a quick recap of all of the builds for jungle. Now, onto the mid lane. The first build that we have for the mid lane will be for those using Sanguine Blade once again. Champions like Zed, Talon, Jace, Aurelia, and Lucian are just dominating in the mid lane right now due to the powerful passive on this item. As soon as you lock in a champion that can rush Sanguine Blade into champions who can't, then you've pretty much auto-won your laning phase. Your counterpart will not be able to keep up against your damage due to just the pure value that this item provides. There is no AP item in the game that can match the damage and passive from Sanguine Blade, which just makes it hard to justify picking an AP champion in the mid lane. Next up, we have some builds for Zed and Akali. If you weren't aware already, Presence of Mind has been reworked a little bit to now restore 20% of your mana or your energy, while also increasing your maximum mana or energy by a small amount per takedown. This means that champions whose damage was gated by their energy consumption can now go full ham with their abilities thanks to this rune. Champions like Zed and Akali are balanced, well, maybe Zed is, but balanced around the fact that you have to be smart with your abilities and conserve your energy as much as possible. For example, it's pretty crucial that Zed hits multiple skill shots in order to get some energy back to do more damage in the long run. However, with Presence of Mind, you can be a lot more spammy with your skill shots since you won't be punished as hard for missing your shurikens. Basically, what it ends up meaning that Zed and Akali have a skill cap that's been lowered by a little bit. And lastly, in the mid lane, we've got some builds for Ryze and Kassadin. These two champions have been thriving off of some changes recently and are now even stronger than what they were in the previous patches. Listen, you guys saw Ryze at the World Championship be a hotly contested pick and do very well, holding one of the highest win rates at the World Championships using Phase Rush. However, this is mainly due to the changes made to Conqueror and in turn Presence of Mind, allowing these champions to consistently take the precision tree. Before, Kassadin did take fleet footwork a lot, so he is no stranger to the precision tree. However, having more mana never hurts these champions, and in fact they benefit heavily off of it. Although Ryze's mana scaling is based off of bonus mana instead of max mana, it still helps him spam his EQ, 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 EQ combo during the laning phase, and on top of the mana bonuses, the healing and stacking from Conqueror is beyond nuts on these champions. Kassadin can fully stack Conqueror in a matter of seconds thanks to his full combo not only being a really short cooldown, but his W counting as an ability and an auto attack. Rise, on the other hand, can non-stop spam his abilities to get 10 stacks, and then, just face roll his keyboard for a penta, so give these two champions a try. And here is a recap for all of the mid lane builds. Now, let's move on to the ADCs. First up for ADCs, it seems that there's a completely new meta-breaking build in the bottom lane which involves purchasing 4 to 5 Doran's Blades on every ADC except for Ezreal and Kai'Sa. This is most notably used on early game lane bullies like Caitlyn and Ashe, but is the most effective on MF. In fact, the build is the sole reason why MF's win rate has spiked 6% in the past patch. 6%. And the reason why this build works so well is due to the stat value that Doran's Blade provides. It's pretty much an early game steroid which makes you very tanky, do tons of damage, and also have a lot of lifesteal. On top of that, being able to have priority in the lane with this build is very valuable thanks to the added importance of the dragons during the early game. Pretty much every ADC in Korea is doing this right now and will likely to do so unless another meta-breaking discovery is made during the preseason. Next up on the list, we have more bot lane mages taking more weird runes, this time with Conqueror Swain and Heimerdinger. Like we mentioned previously, Heimerdinger is untouchable right now with the new Conqueror, and he's a complete counter to low range ADCs and melee supports. Anybody who tries to fight him while he has his turret set up is in for a world of hurt, and they'll likely to be dead within a few seconds. Swain, on the other hand, combos very well with the new Conqueror rune thanks to his ability to stack up to 10 very quickly. One basic combo will instantly give you full stacks with his E, W, passive, and Q plus ultimate, and then it means that you'll be gaining a ton of AP and 15% healing. If you've been noticing an influx of Swain bottom recently, well, now you know why. Lastly, for ADCs, we have a build for Jhin. Lethality Jhin is back on the table, and a lot of pro players have been trying it out with the new build. For runes, you'll take Fleet Footwork, Overheal, Bloodline, Coup de Grace, followed by Sorcery Secondary for Mana Flow Ban and Transcendence. For items, you'll go Youmuu's into Swifty Boots, Umbral Glaive, Duskblade, Edge of Night, and the Last Whisper. The focus of this build is to increase your burst damage and overall lower your DPS. The trade-off is kind of risky, but against specific team comps, it can auto-win you the game, especially, of course, if you get snowballed. And here's a quick recap of all of the builds for ADCs. Finally, on to supports. First up in the support section, we have a build for the new champion, which is Senna. Senna has been one of the most broken champions in the game ever since her release, thanks to her overloaded kit and straight up overtuned numbers. However, in 9.23, Senna's support got even stronger thanks to a few things, such as the new lethality items, as well as the new support starting items. For runes, you'll take Summon Airy, Mana Flow Ban, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Resolve Secondary for Revitalize and Bone Plating. For items, you'll want a Spectral Sickle into Duskblade, Umbral Glaive, Swiftness Boots, Youmuu's, and an Infinity Edge. And lastly, for support, we have two unique tank supports that are usually found in the top lane that are now entering the meta in the bot lane. These two champions are Ornn and Maokai, and both of these tank champions have been viable in the bot lane now as supports thanks to the changes made to Aftershock. In general, of course, the early game of this rune has been nerfed, but having a 20-second cooldown on this rune instead of 35 seconds means that you can engage a lot more during the laning phase without worrying about getting one-shot. The build for Maokai is Aftershock, Font of Life, Second Wind, and Revitalize, followed by Inspiration Secondary for Cosmic Insight and Hex Flash. And for Ornn, you'll grab yourself Aftershock, Demolish, Bone Plating, and Unflinching, followed by Inspiration for a Stopwatch and Cosmic Insight. The builds are rather similar because you'll want a Bulwark of the Mountain, followed by Mobility Boots, Righteous Glory, Redemption, Zeke's, and a Locket. And lastly, of course, here is a quick recap of all of the support builds that we mentioned. That's gonna do it for our OP Korean builds video. If you enjoyed watching this, then please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel to be notified of every new video. Make sure to check out our website for in-depth content and guides that were made by your favorite pro players. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the new Rift.